So this happened today. We have snow on the ground. Hey Run Junkies, now that the temperatures have dropped, at least here in the northern half of the United States, many of you are asking how to dress for and deal with those colder temperatures. So today, let's talk about some cold weather running. First of all, we have to acknowledge that our personal definition of cold is basically completely regional. For example, if you live in the South, your definition of cold is very different than someone who lives up north. Regional climate, altitude, and humidity, all of these factor into our individual definition of what it means to be cold. And likewise, those opinions differ as to what it means to be too cold to run outside.
It's maybe 20 degrees. This is the bottom end of the temperature range that I am willing to run outside. The difference and why I didn't stay inside is because that sun is out and look at that sky. What I wear for this kind of weather: knit hat, okay, this is fleece lined knit hat, gloves. I showed you the kit that I wear when it's warmer. My pants are a little thicker, they're fleece lined. I'm wearing 2 layers on top, and I'm wearing balaclava and a fleece vest. This usually does it for me until I'm warmed up, and then from here I can start unlayering if I need to. The fleece has a zipper on it, the pink layer has a zipper on it. The most important thing for us as runners when we are out in temperatures like this is to keep our core warm, our heart and lungs, and our extremities. So if our feet are warm, our hands are warm, and our head, especially our head.
Now, many of us have a floor, a lower limit of what we consider to be too cold before we modify, skip, or move an outdoor workout. And that is based on mostly personal preference. But other factors come into play here about whether or not we want to run outside. For example, yes, it might be cold, but is the sun shining? Is it going to feel warmer because the sun is out? Or is it cloudy? Is it even snowing? I personally don't mind running in the snow. It's kind of a nice change every once in a while to just go out and run when it's snowing. But if conditions start to deteriorate and it gets dangerous and icy, then I will call an outdoor run and just stick to the treadmill. We definitely want to be careful of ice and uneven footing when those conditions deteriorate.
Now I'm going over a bridge, and as you can see, it is covered in snow. Bridges usually have a little bit of snow on them until the sun hits them. So believe it or not, that snow will be gone by the end of the day. So I'm back on this bridge where I crossed earlier, and they've plowed it since I've been here. The only problem is that there's going to be an underlayer of ice. So I will typically stay a little more cautious, especially if it's an easy run. There's no reason to push yourself across the ice when it gets cold like this. Safety is crucial, and the last thing you want to do is derail your training because you pushed across ice, slipped, fell, hurt something.
But there is such a thing as being too cold to be safe. Hypothermia and frostbite can be avoided if you cover all exposed skin with moisture wicking fabrics and keeping your core body temperature up. But if conditions are such that you have to slow down because of conditions, that maybe it's too icy or snowy out and you have to be more careful of your footing, then you slow down, your heart rate drops, and your core body temperature drops, increasing your risk of hypothermia and frostbite. But if you are running outside in conditions like this, there are things you can do to reduce your risk of these things. And one of them is just maybe keep your run shorter or stay closer to home so you can bail out if conditions deteriorate. Now that might be fine for your midweek maintenance run, but what about your long run? If you're training for a winter destination or a spring marathon, you know that the long run is key, and skipping too many of those because of weather could compromise your training. But what if the weather just isn't cooperating to make those runs safe to run outside? Planning ahead, maybe moving your long run to a different day, might be helpful if you have that kind of flexibility. However, now might be the time to suck it up and hit the treadmill and binge watch that new show that you haven't seen yet on Netflix. I know that is easier said than done, but you get the miles in and avoid those dangerous conditions. Now, one source I actually read suggested that you not run outside if the temperature drops below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. The reason being is that it gets to a point where we don't feel what is happening with our bodies anymore. So if we're dealing with some kind of niggling pain or flirting with injury a little bit, we could be causing more harm just by being out running and we can't feel what's happening. Another issue to deal with is wind chill, and I think this one is very important. A 20-mile-per-hour wind can make the temperature outside feel 15 degrees colder. So for example, the forecast might be 35 degrees, but that 20-mile-an-hour wind is going to make it feel more like 20 degrees. Does anyone remember Walt Disney World 2017 marathon?
It's not so much that it's cold, because it is cold. But the wind is killing me. It's awful.
That wind chill factor may be the difference between a comfortably cool run and something that might make you completely miserable or even downright dangerous. If you do run outside in windy conditions when it's cold out, you might start your run into the wind, and then when you turn your run, you are running with the wind at your back. This will just help when you're getting tired. You don't want to muscle into the wind. Now, you might not think of it, but hydration is also important in cold temperatures. We may not feel ourselves sweating, but through that sweat and respiration, we are getting dehydrated. So still bring along that bottle of water, or you can switch it up. If you're afraid of that water bottle freezing, then you might make it some kind of sports drink, because the electrolytes in that sports drink will lower the freezing point. You can also find insulated bottles or packs that will help keep that water from freezing. The bottom line is this: cold weather running may require a little bit more thought and planning, but it doesn't have to completely derail our journey. Keep yourself warm and keep yourself safe. And if you can, be flexible about the where, when, and how you get that run in, and you can still get the miles in when the mercury dips. My question for you today is this: how do you deal with running in colder temperatures? Please leave thoughts, questions, comments, and suggestions in the comment section down below. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up if you like this video and subscribe. We've got more great stuff in Vlogtober. Thanks so much for watching. Go find your awesome, warm, and happy running.